and they're still smiling.
That's
he had
good.
a plan for me. Run down there as fast as I can. I don't want to preach at you or nothing. Sees the potential that you have.
And we own the decisions that we make.
Yes. It's not my woes and my worries. Every single person has a calling.
Workplace missionary, your character and your conduct.
Some new recipes for humble pie, and you're gonna have to serve it up to yourself. I really like this.
Lead the leaders. Welcome back to the People We Build podcast. My name is Andrew Bieber, and this is one of my best friends, Carl Burnett. What's up, Carl?
Not much. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, dude.
I'm excited.
I'm stoked, man.
Yes.
So, like we talked about last time, we're going to be interviewing multiple people to kind of get a feel for who CMC is, what CMC does, and really we believe that the branding of CMC is in the stories of the people here at CMC. And this is one of those people, he's got a great story. I love hearing it, and I'm excited for you guys to get to hear it because, man, I just want to dive in, okay? So,
sure, let's go.
What brought you to CMC?
To get into that, let's backstory just a little bit, so that way we can dive off into some facts and some truth. So, the beginning of 2019, I was served with a federal indictment, just based off some really poor life choices and not having God in my life, and just went down a downward spiral that ultimately led to me being federally indicted and in federal prison for a few years. And so towards the end of 2022, I'm released. I get to the federal halfway house, and you have 2 weeks to get a job. Sure. And so I'm still in my routine of getting up early and working out. And as I'm doing this early in the morning, I'm seeing all of these guys wearing CMC hoodies, getting ready to go to work and start work at 5 a.m. And they're happy, and they're laughing with each other, and they're chopping it up, and like they're in a good mood. And so I'm just like, all right, that's a little odd. Like, I'm feeling kind of grumpy this morning. I haven't had my coffee yet, but these guys are already laughing and enjoying each other's company. And so then fast forward about 12 hours, and here come these same guys back in the door, and they're still smiling, and they're still happy. I'm like, well, like, what'd you guys do all day? They're like, well, we just got done working a 12-hour shift. And I was like, well, why are you guys still like so energetic and happy and like enthusiastic? And like, it's just the place we work. Like they pour into us. We're so thankful to be able to go and work for a company that values us and sees us for who we are. And immediately I hit the job counselor up, and I was like, let me get a job there. And she says, they're not hiring anymore. Like, they've got all the people they need. And so this is just another example of how even when I wasn't paying attention at the time, God was doing tremendous things in my life, and He had a plan for me. And so literally, I've already made a couple friends in the halfway house. I've been there about a week and a half, and I made a couple friends and some guys that I had some common ground with, and we had similar mindsets and similar mentalities, and we were working out together. And one of the guys worked for a local company, an electric company that he had worked for before. And so he's like, I can get you a job, no problem. He's like, it'll be about $15 an hour, but they'll teach you, they'll give you the tools. It'll be working for an electric company, doing residential and commercial electric. And so I was like, well, that's definitely an honorable trade. I wouldn't mind learning that. And so I get an application from him, and I literally put the first letter of my first name on the application, and my case manager calls me, and I answer the phone, and she says, hey, aren't you trying to get on at CMC? And I said, absolutely, I'm trying to get on at CMC. She said, I've got a guy in my office right now, Mike Hill, who I think you worked with when you first came on. And he had 2 applications that they needed for positions in the chestnut shop. And so I run down there as fast as I can. And I'm going to make sure I get one of those 2 applications. And so I get it, I fill it out, I send it in with Mike, and he ends up turning it in for me. And so it's about another week or so before I get a call back. And just to backpedal a little bit further, in my past career was as a professional land surveyor. And so as I'm filling out the application, I'm just I understand that like some of my skill sets are probably unique compared to what some of the other people are going to be putting down as their skill sets. So as I'm filling it out, I'm putting some of my AutoCAD experience and drafting experience. And so fast forward that week later, and I'm sitting there and there's 3 of us, and I'm just like, oh, they said there was only 2 positions. So then I start sizing these guys up. I'm like, this is my competition. And so they go out and they meet with Steve. And as I'm walking out, they're like, which one of you is Carl? And I'm just like, well, that's me. And they're like, you go up the stairs. You're meeting with Drew. And they're like, this is odd because Drew doesn't really interview anyone or meet with anyone. And so I'm just like, well, okay, well, let's go see what this Drew guy's about. And so, I go up the stairs and I sit down with Drew. And really what he's looking for is somebody that has the type of drafting experience that we utilize here. And so he's just like, we don't really have the manpower or time to train someone. We need somebody that's kind of turnkey at this time. And so he's like, but you're welcome to sit down and talk to Steve if you want. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to meet Steve. And so... And then,
good old Steve.
Just one of the best people, man.
He is.
And so I go downstairs and I meet with Steve, and Steve's like, well, I just hired those other 2 guys. I don't really have a spot for anyone else. He's like, but if you've got some time, he's like, I would love to sit down and have a conversation with you. And so we sat down for about 25, 30 minutes, and throughout the course of that conversation, knowing the man that I know now, knowing Steve that I know now, this is one of the things I actually literally said to the man when I sat down in this conversation. And I was trying to just explain to him like what God has been doing in my life and how he had helped me overcome my addiction. And I literally said these words to Steve. I said, I don't want to preach at you or nothing. And now knowing him, I see actually how ridiculous that statement was, because if anything, he would love to be preached at.
Yeah.
So he sits down and he takes time, even knowing full well that he doesn't have a position to offer me. He still took time out of his busy day. There's never been a day that man's been here that he's not extremely busy or needed in multiple areas at one time and just stretched kind of thin. But he did. He took time to have a conversation with me. And throughout the course of that conversation, he looked at me and he said, you know what? He said, I'm going to take a chance on you. And he said, even if you're just sweeping floors, he said, come in Monday morning and we'll put you to work. And so just a prime example of even when I was only half-heartedly paying attention to what God was doing in my life, he had a plan for me and he had a purpose for me. And I do not think it's by chance that CMC was the first place that I came to work, the first place that I was given an opportunity. And so by the time I came in Monday, it just so happened that someone else had moved on and there was a position available for me. And I was able to start working with Skylar Hill and developing another tremendous friendship and relationship with somebody that I truly trust and respect. And so it's just been an amazing journey so far. But that's kind of how the beginning came about for me. Is just I saw joy and happiness where it was not expected. I did not expect people that are getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, working a 12-hour shift, to have the same joy in the morning and then the same joy at the end of the day after working that 12-hour shift and looking forward to going back the next day. And what that's a testament of is working for a place that doesn't see you as the mistakes of your past. This place sees the potential that you have, and they don't even care. Like we don't care where you're coming from. We care where you're headed.
That's right.
And so it's just a truly, I didn't think I would find that when I got released. I thought I was always going to be seen as a former convict, a felon. I thought I was going to be judged. I thought I was going to be working a series of jobs that would not fulfill me or satisfy me. Yeah. They would just be tasks that I had to do in order to make ends meet. Never did I imagine that I would have a career, let alone at the first place that I got to come to work for. But from the very first day, even before the first day, during that conversation with Steve, I felt valued and I felt like I had more to offer, and I felt like that he saw that, and he saw the potential in the person, not the mistakes of the person's past. So
that's something that I've really come to see as essential to who CMC is that there is a large group of people who are just waiting to be given a chance. And sure, not everyone you give a chance to is going to succeed, right? And we know that.
Yes.
But those that do succeed, I've often found that the principle, I believe it was Jesus that said, those who are forgiven much love much. Those who are given a chance when no one else will give them a chance, what you'll find is they're more dedicated, more loyal, more committed to the cause, because you've really pulled them out of a place where they had no hope, no chance, no. Like when I hear you talking about that, I hear somebody who's going, I came from a professional life, and because of some decisions that I made, right, and we own the decisions that we make,
Yes.
I ended up in a position where my future was uncertain, my position was uncertain, and really the path that I was supposed to be on was uncertain. And man, thank God that you didn't have to go through heartache and brokenness continually through one place after another place after another place. You landed in a place that not only saw the value in you, but saw the potential of what you could be if given a chance. And I think that's just awesome.
It's amazing. And it's a common story that we have. Our business model is to build people. The buildings are a byproduct of what our purpose is. We have to obviously generate income. We have to have revenue in order to provide livelihoods for people to support themselves and their families. But ultimately, man, it's so amazing to be able to do what we do. So when I was still incarcerated, there was a time where I was just like, I have a powerful story to tell, and I have an effective way of communicating. And so maybe I could be a peer counselor or something of that nature. And then God just put it on my heart that like I didn't want the rest of my life and my career to be centered and focused on the worst choices I ever made and the worst decisions I ever made. And so I didn't want that to be the theme of my life. And so now coming here, it's still, my testimony is powerful, and I can apply it to helping people, but it's not the sole focus of, it's not my woes and my worries and the things that I went through and woe is me. It's, no, this is what I went through, and then this is where I'm at now. And you can do that too. And so when people see me that are just meeting me within the company, new hires and people that I haven't really worked around closely, and they find out that, oh, you went to prison, like a lot of times they're surprised, because I don't carry that old life with me anymore. It's definitely a part of my story. It's a part of my testimony. It's only something I bring out if I think it's going to be used to encourage someone. It's not anything I ever use as bragging rights, like, oh, I did this, I'm one of those dudes, none of that. It's only if I think it will help to elevate someone's mindset to say, hey, you don't have to identify as that anymore. You're a new creation through the love of Jesus. Like, you don't have to identify as that old person that you were. And so it's something that, I'm not proud of the things that I did to end up getting me federally indicted. But I'm not ashamed of the man that I am today. And a lot of that has to do with this company and building me up. They've built me up. And so one of the things I like to tell guys, especially when they're freshly starting with the company, is, we have a mission statement, which is we build people, we build buildings. And that doesn't mean upper management builds people. That doesn't mean your leads build people. That means every single person has a calling to build up the guy next to him. Like, you might be the first or the last or the only source of encouragement that they receive that day. And it's our job to give them that encouragement, regardless of what your role is, regardless of what your position is. If you see your brother or sister struggling, then it's your job here to go and encourage them and find out what's going on and see if you can pray with them, see if you can lend them your ear. And sometimes that's all it takes, is someone that's willing to listen and let them unburden themselves a little bit.
Sean says that he puts it in his email right underneath his title. Like, he puts workplace missionary. And I think that's amazing, because it really is what we're doing here. Is we say that we're a for-profit ministry, and what we mean by that is, yes, we build 7 brews, right? That is the way that we bring in profit for the mission that we actually have. which is to point and direct people to Jesus Christ,
Yes.
right? That's what we're here for. We
For
want to
the
build
kingdom.
up people from wherever they're starting, right? And to go back to something that you said. We don't care what you've done. We care who you are today. It's one of the things that I say in orientation is like one of the unique things I think about us is we don't do background checks. None. I don't care what charges or any. It's not even on the application process. You don't have to do a background check to come to work here, because what I'm going to do is from the day that you set foot in orientation, and really even before that, the interview process, but from orientation and forward, I'm going to be looking at your character and your conduct. Both of those two things are each and every one of our own responsibility to develop.
Yes.
Character and conduct. Now, those can be developed and we can help you to develop them. And that's actually kind of where I want to steer the conversation is you came in, and I'll use myself as an example, right? When I came into the company, I had been working dead-end factory jobs where I'm on a line and I'm shoveling boxes through a machine. And that's really where I was flatted out. I was flatlined, right? That's all I could do. Like there's no growth in the opportunity. I didn't have a degree, so I couldn't go into the office. And my skill set is talking, right? Like I'm great at talking.
Yes, I know that. I think it might also be important to note that when you first started here was actually the very same day that I first started.
That is correct.
So
yes.
we both went through orientation together.
Yeah.
You showed up wearing this Jesus freak shirt, and I'm just like, oh, what have I gotten myself into? And then we actually got to work side by side on the shop floor.
We did.
Operating different machines, but our machines happened to be located next to each other.
Yes.
And so even before we both got to see the plans God had for us within this company, like we already got to develop a friendship and getting to know each other. And so
I don't know if you remember, you were the guy. So I remember, if those of you who remember the Asbury revival had happened a few years ago, it was this college happened in Kentucky where these kids just started repenting. It was an amazing moment, right? And I remember sharing in Bible study one day. This just kind of shows the character of this guy. I remember sharing in Bible study, like, hey, I really feel like God wants me to go to this place. But there's no way. And I said, can you guys pray that, finances would come in? And I remember after the meeting, Carl comes up to me and is like, hey, man, here's $40. Like, I know it's not a lot, but I just wanted to help you get there. You know what I mean?
I actually had forgot about that.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I remember your passion for wanting to go.
Yeah,
and and I mean, you were just kind of really starting out with being able to do things like that and fuel that fire to preach and to speak and to reach people.
And it was exciting.
And so and your passion was contagious. And so there in the moment, I was just like, that's all I had in my wallet, and I was like, I'm just going to give this guy whatever I have. And I think you ended up having a really
it was a pretty amazing experience. Yeah. But to go back to the potential, and that was the thing, is that if I look at the position I'm in now, we've been with the company almost 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. 3 years in November. And the position that I hold now, the influence that I have, I'm going to use a word, the favor that I have had on my life has been insane. And here's the coolest thing about it, though, is that it's not just me. It's not just you. It's other people that can rise up, because that's what we want to do here at CMC. If we have an opening, an opportunity for growth and a promotion, man, we want to hire from within. Yeah. We want to raise up people. And that's how two guys like us went from being on the shop floor to being in leadership. And I just want to kind of pick your brain about what that process was like for you. Like, where did you start? Where are you now?
So, like I said, when I was still locked up, I didn't have very, very much hope of finding a career that I would feel fulfilled in. Mm-hmm. Coming from something I was very passionate about and something that I had spent nearly 2 decades developing that career and nurturing it and just becoming really good at what I did. And I was a professional amongst professionals. I was one of those guys that other people that were licensed would seek out my counsel to help resolve property boundary issues. And I kind of developed a reputation for being that guy that would settle disputes between other surveyors. Mm-hmm. And so I was an expert witness on several land property line litigation cases. And so it was something I was extremely passionate about. And so I knew, and I had a few years while I was locked up to prepare myself and to know that you're going to have to come up with some new recipes for humble pie, and you're going to have to serve it up to yourself on a regular basis. And so I stepped into the position like I said, when Steve first offered me the role, it was literally to sweep floors. And I had the weekend to get my head wrapped around that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get those floors as clean as they can possibly be. And I'm going to do the absolute best job I can do. And it doesn't matter what the task is. If he had said your job's going to be to clean the toilets, I would have had those toilets shining.
Yep.
I had prepared myself to accept whatever humility I needed to, and to apply whatever humility I needed to just do the best job that I could at whatever position. This was my first opportunity outside of prison to work and start to build something. And so I wanted to do the best I could. And so coming from a very professional environment, working for engineering firms, having my own business for several years, to you're going to be the guy that sweeps the shop floors. I had to make sure that my mind was right for that, and that I approached it with a grateful heart to have that job and to have something to start, somewhere to start.
Yeah.
And so that would be my encouragement for these guys, is to know that whoever's asking you to do whatever job they're asking you to do, I promise you they're willing to do that job themselves. If no one else was available to sweep floors, I promise you I would see Steve sweeping a floor. Like, he would do whatever is needed of him to make sure that this company is successful. And so for me, it started with being humble and humbling myself to the point to where I was just like, it doesn't matter where I've been. This is where I am, and I'm going to do the absolute best at what I'm doing now. And that's contagious. That's infectious. People that work around you want to work harder. So even though Skylar was my lead, within a short time, he gave me responsibilities of training new people that were coming into the department and keeping them busy. And that way he didn't have to micromanage the whole department. He could trust that whoever was working alongside me, that I could make sure that they were busy and I would stay busy. And I don't know if you remember that about me, but I never really was standing still very long when I was at this year, which was kind of unique because you guys were like in a standing position most of the day, but I was all over the shop. Like, I was doing whatever, wherever I needed to fill a need. And so being willing to step in and fill a need when it presents itself is a huge. It was a huge key to my success so far within CMC. So another example was, and there were a few of us that were involved with this, but there was a set of canopies that never, like they were going to be late and they weren't going to make it.
Night, dude.
It was a tremendously long night. I clocked in at 5 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, and I didn't clock out till 2 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, the next day. And I can remember Skylar smiling at me while we were putting those canopies together, and he's like, "These are the kind of nights that make promotions." And so, but what Skylar didn't realize was what he was doing was giving me a little bit of exposure to something that I had a little bit more interest in, which was actually assembling. I'd pretty much done what I could on the shear, came up with some processes to build rag containers and build cash registers, and came up with different processes for some of the more complicated tasks on operating the shear, for cut sheets and stuff like that. But once I got a little taste of assembly, I was like, I really like this. I enjoy this work. I feel fulfilled. My days are going by much faster. I'm actually getting to see the parts that we put together over at Chestnut. I'm getting to see them actually be constructed, and something is being made with our hands. And it was just so fulfilling and so satisfying. Not that I want to discredit the time that I spent at Chestnut, because I'm exceedingly blessed that there's literally not one shop that we have currently in production that I haven't got to actually physically do the work in. And so one of the things that I really love about us is if somebody has an interest in doing something other than what they're doing, we never stifle them. We never hold them back. So when I went to Skylar, I don't think he really was excited about me going somewhere else, but he didn't hold me back, and he didn't stop me. And he said, "Okay, I'll look into it," when I asked to move to canopies. And he said, "Okay, I'm okay with it. Haas is okay with it. Give me 2 weeks for you to train someone." And I said, "Absolutely, no problem. I'll train whoever you hire, and we'll get them up and running." And then, once I went into assembly, it was just a whole different world, a whole different area. It was a different skill set that I got to learn. And as far as from there, I was given an opportunity while Haas was on vacation, and then he ended up going into the hospital for a few weeks. And while he was away, I was given the opportunity to kind of keep things running with little to no training on our processes at the time. But it was really good. It was a good learning experience. It was kind of just trial by fire.
Yeah.
And during that time, we didn't miss any canopy set dates. And I'll give a lot of credit to Sean Stegman. He's one of the people that kind of saw what I was doing and put a bug in Clay's ear about giving me an opportunity when the opportunity to get into an actual leadership role presented itself. And so, again, another example of how in my life and in my story, God's timing is just absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Because right at the time where I was kind of outgrowing the position I was in, and I knew Haas was going to come back, and I was going to be like, oh man, this is going to be a challenge because I'm used to kind of running things now, and like I'm going to have to step back into the role of, following direction from Haas, and like is going to be, it's his department.
It's a transition.
And so I felt like I was going to have to take a step back kind of in a way, but the timing was just amazing. Right at that time, we needed to start up a whole new department for dry storage, and the opportunity was given for me to go in and start that department up. And
now you have continually grown up to where now we see that you're in a position of a production manager, which is really over a couple of different shops, over a few different departments, and really helping to lead the leaders, right? And that is an awesome, growth track, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
so one of the things that Ralph always says is that there's a golden thread through everything. And I'm tracking that golden thread. There's a couple of things that stood out to me during this interview. One of them is we have the structure and the process in place to raise up people from within to positions of leadership, to positions of influence. That's the one thing that I noticed through this, right? And then the second thing that I notice is that structure and that process exists, and I believe it's available for every single person that works here. Every single one of you that are listening to this podcast right now that work here at CMC, you have the opportunity to rise up, to grow in the company, to be promoted, to come into influence and leadership. Here's the other thing, though. I saw throughout your story that when given something small, you were faithful with it. And then when given something else, you were faithful with that. And that's a biblical principle. Those who are faithful with the little will be faithful with the much. And so that is my encouragement to you as we wrap this up today, that if you have what is in front of you and you are noticing that you're not stewarding it well, you will never be able to continue with something else, because nothing is going to be given if you're not stewarding what is already given to you. And so my encouragement to you today is take what is in front of you, work at it diligently, give it your all, pour your heart and your soul into whatever you find yourself in right now, and then watch as more is given to you, and then continually be faithful over and over again. And that, I believe, is the story that I hear from you.
Absolutely.
Is God's faithfulness, the company's faithfulness, and your faithfulness. So, amen, Carl. I love you. I was excited about this podcast ever since the beginning when we started it. So, man, I hope that you guys really enjoyed it. This is the People We Build podcast. And until next time.